A little over 5 years ago, Hyundai's luxury division Genesis launched in America with their first model ever known as the G80. Now, of course, back then, the G80 was simply a renamed version of the Hyundai Genesis midsize luxury sedan. Now, of course, as you guys know, last year, Genesis completely redesigned the G80, introducing a lot of firsts for the segment and truly building a world-class luxury vehicle that could challenge the best from Europe. Now for 2022, the G80 Sport is back. And just like the previous generation, the Sport is designed to give you a little bit more of a performance flair to Genesis's mid-size luxury sedan. And with 375 horsepower under the hood, standard all-wheel drive, and a starting price of around $65,000, the big question I want answered, does the new 2022 G80 Sport truly challenge the best from BMW, Audi, and Mercedes? Stay tuned to find out. Hey guys, before we get started on the video, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, StartMail. You know, if you're like me and so many other Americans out there, you probably use your email in order to communicate with everybody. I mean, everybody. And this is where StartMail comes in because their company mission is simple. Keep your private information in your email private. I made the switch to StartMail earlier this year and I can't be happier with how the system works. They essentially keep your emails private. Period. Every email can be encrypted, even if the recipient doesn't use encryption. StartMail is also backed by the most stringent privacy laws in the world, and you get unlimited anonymous aliases. This feature protects your main email from spam and phishing attacks. That was my main problem with my previous email server. It was a constant flow of junk mail that was really starting to fill up my inbox and my junk mail folder because that was getting full. I especially love using StartMail, of course, for all of my usual tasks with Redline, from scheduling the press cars to scheduling the trips, from communicating with all the manufacturers. So what are you waiting for, guys? Take back control of your privacy with StartMail today, and you can also save up to 50% off of your first year. If you guys go to the link in the description below, use the code word Redline, or just go to www.startmail.com/Redline, where you can save up to 50% off of your first year. Again, go to the link in my description below for 50% off of your first year. And now, let's get back to the video. So now that the G80 Sport is back for 2022, the first thing I want to point out, the Sport name in this vehicle does not mean it technically competes with cars like the BMW M5 or an E63S. Really, the G80 Sport is designed to compare against something like the BMW 540i xDrive with the M Sport package or a Mercedes-Benz E450. Now, because it competes with more milder six-cylinder options within the competitive set, let's talk a little bit about the styling changes that Genesis has made to the G80 by adding on the Sport name. Now, first of all, you guys should know this design language. It was the first Genesis model to introduce their crest design language. They call it athletic elegance. It really continues to stand out, although I do think that this styling direction looks better on something like a GV80 or a GV70, they're SUVs. You can see the bold crest grille is massive. It really dominates the front end. It looks good, of course, with the Genesis wing logo. My particular tester is painted in this beautiful shade of Tasman blue. I apologize, it's a little dirty. We just had a snowstorm here in Pennsylvania, so the car, obviously, I got to test out its all-wheel drive system, which was nice. The quad beam headlights are going to be standard. These are full LED headlights with the signature dual line. It also includes an LED turn signal, which the LED turn signal, as you can see, is not sequential, but it does take up the entire design of the front daytime running light. You can see the grille also has a more blacked out chrome finish. So instead of the bright chrome that you got on the 2021 model, they've kind of darkened the chrome. You can see this is the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control. You also have a front camera. And if you squint at the front fascia really hard, you're going to notice one new design element with the Sport model. You can see the lower front fascia has been changed, where you have this new body colored accent that kind of tilts up and goes toward the center. They also got rid of the chrome line that cut through the center here. There's no fog lights for this vehicle, but I do think the new front end, which is a very subtle change, does make this vehicle look a little bit more sleeker. It makes it look a little bit more aggressive. This is still, again, no E53 AMG competitor or BMW M5 competitor, but it certainly does have a much more aggressive look. Now, coming around the side profile, you can see this vehicle is a relatively large car. At 196 inches long, this is a little bit longer than some of its competitors, and its wheelbase at 118 inches long, again, is within a couple inches longer versus most of its main rivals. The new wheels, you can see this is the most distinctive element about the Sport model. These are the same 20-inch wheels that we see on the GV70 Sport, with the same kind of pattern in the actual wheel spokes that mimics the front grille. I love these wheels, but I definitely have seen some comments from you guys saying that the wheels almost look like hubcaps. I kind of disagree, but again, this is going to be all to your specific taste. The Sport also includes the monoblock front calipers, which are 4-piston design, although I do wish they were painted red. They do have the Genesis script actually stamped on the caliper itself, but it would have been looked better if it was painted. You can see the twin LED turn signals are mirrored on the fenders, which does look nice. And then for the Sport, Genesis actually went with more of an aggressive suspension tune. So the suspension is stiffer in the front by about 4% and 12% in the rear. And one thing that my tester has with the Prestige package is it also adds rear wheel steering. So the rear wheels allow it to turn up to 2 degrees now, and at speeds below 25, I believe, they'll turn in the opposite direction, and then they'll turn in the same direction as the front wheels. At higher speeds, you can see all Sports come standard with a panoramic glass roof, which definitely lets in a lot of light. And then you can see here with the Sport model Prestige, you also get the rear sunshades in the back, which definitely gives this a more interesting look. Now around back, you can see the design looks pretty much the same. You're gonna see, again, the signature dual line, full LED taillights with the LED turn signals. The Sport adds a very, very subtle spoiler here that's integrated into the trunk lid with this kind of dark chrome bar. And then you can see here at the rear diffuser also has a more squared off look with this kind of fake vent over here, the redesigned look to the reflector lights. And then the exhaust system, you can see, typically Genesis put a quad outlet exhaust, but you can see the exhaust has the same signature crest shape. I kind of wish they'd given us a quad exhaust. All of the Sports come standard with the 3.5 twin turbocharged V6. Now opening up the trunk capacity, you can see a power lift or power trunk lid is going to be standard, and the trunk capacity is pretty good. This measures just over 13 cubic feet of space, which is fine for the segment. You can see the seats don't fold down in a 60/40 manner. Instead, you have a trunk pass-through, and then underneath the floor here, Genesis does give you a temporary spare, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. All right, so now that we've talked about the exterior differences, let's go ahead and hop inside the interior of the Sport version and talk about some of the small changes that Genesis has made. First thing I want to show you guys, the key fob. Their push-button access smart key comes standard on the Sport. It does include their smart part feature if you guys get the Prestige package. So if I start the vehicle up, you can see it has remote start on the fob. You can also use their digital key, where you can use a phone as a key. And if I push and hold this button here after I've started it, you can see the vehicle will actually pull forward out of a spot, or I can also reverse the vehicle as well. It really only is gonna move the vehicle a couple inches forward and back. That's if it's in a tight parking spot or a tight garage, and you have to be standing next to the car to actually access this feature, which again is a really cool feature, kind of gimmicky, but it really just is similar to what you'll find in some of the other European or luxury players. Now, approaching the vehicle and opening the door, you can see my tester's Tasman Blue is complemented by this beautiful anthracite beige Napa two-tone interior with the contrasting stitching and piping. These seats adjust in 16 different ways. You have a massaging seat on the driver's side. They're heated and ventilated, and you also have 2-person memory here. The seats themselves are really soft, supportive. I love the way they look. They're unique, of course, to the Sport version, and it also looks good with the new 3-spoke design steering wheel, which for those of you who didn't like the 2-spoke wheel, which was a controversial element, you're gonna prefer this versus the 2021 model. You can see the door panel. Surprised this doesn't have full leather stitching on the upper portion, but it is a soft touch injection molded plastic. There's real metal trim and real carbon fiber that's included with the Sport trim. That's part of the Prestige package. And you can see more leather padding. There's that 23 speaker Lexicon stereo with the metal speaker covers, and down here it's all soft touch injection molded plastic. So again, really makes a great first impression. Now getting inside this vehicle and stepping inside, first of all, the door, you can shut it normally, which has a really nice solid sounding thunk, or it also includes a soft close feature, which is standard on the Sport trim, which is definitely unexpected in this segment, which is really nice. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see the start stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. And then when you add the Prestige package, like my tester, you also get that full 12-inch digital cluster, which is also 3-dimensional, which looks great. You also can kind of change the way it looks based on your drive mode, or you can kind of just set it out to be a certain look altogether. The gauge display looks great, although the counter-rotating tack takes a little bit of getting used to. It's a little bit strange, especially if you're not used to it. Now, I'm going to turn on the heated seats and heated steering wheel, or the heated steering wheel and heated seats, because it's 27 degrees outside. And let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of this cabin. You can see that 14.5-inch display dominates everything, which it looks fantastic. It's one of the largest displays you'll find in the segment. It also includes Apple CarPlay, which is great. It doesn't take up the full entire screen, but you don't really need to because this is already big. You have this display here, which you can kind of change the look and customize that if you'd like. The only thing, my only gripe with this display is it doesn't include wireless CarPlay. I have to still plug in the phone. Most competitors give you wireless CarPlay, so Genesis needs to hurry up and update that. You can see you've got genuine leather stitching on the dashboard here. On the entire part of the dash, you have that nice heads-up display, which the leather kind of continues over here. I do wish that they just continued the leather stitching on this upper portion here, but that's a little bit of a nitpick. The wood trim has been replaced with this real carbon fiber on the Sport Prestige package. If you guys just go for a regular Sport, you'll actually get an aluminum look trim with more aluminum accents here and there. This carbon fiber looks nice, but if you guys want wood, you're gonna have to go for a 4-cylinder model. I do think Genesis should offer the wood as an option. I think some people may prefer wood. You have dual zone climate control, of course, with that touch sensitive screen there with haptic feedback, traditional hard buttons here. You have a volume knob here, which is actually a rotating metal wheel, which offers another controller here for the screen. If you guys don't want to touch it, which is a little bit of a far reach, I kind of want Genesis to kind of pull the screen out a little bit further. But again, you can kind of get around that by using the little scrolly wheel, which works pretty well. It's pretty responsive. And it's just nice to look at. Now, you can see this vehicle does come with factory embedded navigation, but most of you, I imagine, are just going to probably end up using the Apple CarPlay. But if you want to look at that, you can see the map display here is pretty much what you expect from a Hyundai vehicle. It's not quite as special as what you might find in a Mercedes and a BMW, but it does work really well. It's snappy, it's responsive, but again, you're gonna probably end up using the Apple CarPlay. You can see over here, there is a wireless phone charging pad where you can put your phone in there and close this lid. You have cup holders over here. You have your drive mode selector over here. The full 360 camera on this vehicle also has really good resolution and graphics. You can also touch this little portion over here and you can see you can kind of rotate around the vehicle. This is what Audi does, what BMW does. It's all very high end. This looks pretty much on par with the best from Europe. So the infotainment system is really, really good. It's right up there with the best from a lot more expensive rivals. Now you can also access a couple of other things here going to setup. You can change your driver assistance stuff. You can also adjust the interior lighting in this vehicle. It does offer several different interior lighting colors. The ambient lighting actually looks pretty good at night. This is much better versus what I've seen in some of the Japanese rivals like Lexus and Infiniti. Acura is also not quite as nice as this in terms of the interior lighting. The gear selector down here is a rotating glass knob. You can see if I twist it into reverse, it puts it into reverse, twist it to the right to go to drive, and then push that button to go to park. I love how high quality and sturdy this knob feels, and you can also see it actually has ambient lighting inside the glass knob, so it changes colors based on whatever you have the ambient lighting set to. Nice padded armrest over here with a leather stitched center console. Open this up, you can see it's got a 12 volt in there. It's got a pretty good amount of storage, although it's not quite as deep as what I've seen from some competitors. The seats, like I mentioned earlier, are beautiful to look at. They're comfortable and supportive. The glove box, you can see, is damped and lined with felt. It's a pretty decent size. And then above me, you can see there is some interior LED interior lighting in here, along with a full microfiber suede headliner, which is included with the Sport Prestige package. And then you can see here the pano roof is standard. It's very dark tinted. You can see this is actually opened up. The sun is shining down. I don't even feel the sun coming in, but if you really don't like sunlight, you can still close this manually retractable, or this power retracting shade, which again is covered with the same beautiful microfiber suede material. So overall, the cabin is beautiful. It's spacious. It's really relatively easy to use, and the only tech that it's missing is wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. So once Genesis adds that, it'll be really nice. The steering wheel, you can see, I also love the new 3-spoke design. It's a power tilt and telescoping wheel, got more touch sensitive buttons, and it's got paddles on the wheel and the horn. Sounds very appropriate given the size of this vehicle. Now, opening the back seat, you can see this is their mid-size luxury sedan offering, which means you get just under 39 inches of legroom back here. 39 is pretty good. It's about on par with what you find from the 5 Series and the E-Class. Actually, maybe a little bit more space versus those rivals. You can see the seats look really nice. You have the same materials from the front with that real carbon fiber, the stitching. This feels soft touch plastic, but it's not stitched. And then you can see this manual sunshade does block out the sunlight or the paparazzi if you guys plan on sitting back here. Now, getting back here, you can see getting in, the door also sounds pretty good. It also has the soft close feature if you guys don't want to slam the door, which is nice. The legroom space is fine. Somebody like me at 5'7", I can get back here and stretch out my legs pretty comfortably. Massive center tunnel hump here because this vehicle, again, remember, is a rear drive car. And you can see there's your own set of climate controls back here, where you can also access the actual, where the airflow is going and the airspeed. If you want to fold this down, you can see this is where you're going to find your heated rear seats. The rear seats offer 3 different levels of heat, and you also have a power retracting sunshade back here, which is definitely nice. This is part of the Sport Prestige package. You also have piano black plastic trim here with cup holders. The 3-level heated seats are nice. You have another center console storage area as well, which is good. And then for somebody who's sitting on this side, I love how Genesis gives you access to move the front passenger seat forward and back to kind of give yourself more rear seat legroom. You also have 2 map pockets here, but no actual cell phone storage pocket. But overall, along with the LED lighting back here, the back seat is a pretty nice place to spend time. Now, underneath the hood of the G80 Sport, you also don't get any additional horsepower this year. Instead, it comes standard with the Good engine, which is the company's 3.5-liter twin turbocharged direct injection V6. Now, you guys should be pretty familiar with this engine. Genesis has been using it on pretty much all of their new models. It was introduced just a couple of years ago. It still makes the same 375 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque. Remember, this is a direct injection, double overhead cam, 3.5-liter twin turbo V6 paired up with an 8-speed automatic transmission that is designed in-house by Genesis. And then the cool thing about 2022 is all the sport models come with all-wheel drive. So if you guys want a V6, it only comes as a sport and it all comes standard with all-wheel drive. So there's no more V6 rear-wheel drive version. Instead, if you want rear drive, you have to downgrade to the 2.5-liter base 4-cylinder turbo, which still makes 300 horsepower. Genesis said that most people buying the V6 wanted all-wheel drive anyways. Now, fuel economy for the Sport is rated at 17 in the city, 26 on the highway. Premium gas, of course, is required for this engine. And because it is all-wheel drive and it's a big sedan, it weighs in at just over 4,500 pounds. 0 to 60, Genesis doesn't quote the times, but we'll try it out, of course, with our 0 to 60 testing equipment. I'm going to estimate it's going to be just under 5 seconds. And this vehicle, with its retuned suspension and steering, it should give us a more confidence-inspiring and just more fun driving manner when we get this out on the road. All right, so here we are in the brand new 2022 Genesis G80 Sport. It's now the only way that you can get the 3.5-liter twin turbo V6, and this thing competes with cars like the Mercedes-Benz E450, the BMW 540i xDrive, and the Audi A6 55 TFSI, which all of them have 6-cylinder engines that are boosted. Genesis does not quote a 0 to 60 time, but for the new Sport version, they did add launch control, and the launch control is accessible when you have it in sport mode and you have to turn off the stability control. So all of its competitors do it between 4.5 to 5 seconds. Keep in mind, it is cold out here. I have it in sport mode right now. No wheel spin because it's all-wheel drive, but wow, I just got 4.72 seconds. So that's right in line with like the Audi A6, the BMW 540i, and the Mercedes-Benz E450. I believe the BMW is the quickest at 4.6, but that is very impressive performance that you're getting out of this thing. And now sadly, I don't have the number to compare to last year, but I know last year did not have launch control, and I said it felt around 4.5 seconds. So remember, it doesn't have any more horsepower this year, but because of that all-wheel drive grip, because of that smooth shifting 8-speed, and nearly, 300 or nearly 400 horsepower. We got 375 horsepower, nearly 400 pound-feet of torque. This is all impressive performance, and it's definitely makes this thing really competitive against its European rivals. Turn off the start-stop because that's actually getting in the way. And there, I got it going 5 seconds when I'm going slightly uphill for this portion here. So, I mean, 4.7 to 5 seconds, that is very impressive numbers. And I have to say, this thing still is a really nice car to drive. Now, what Genesis also did with the Sport model is they tweaked the suspension. So instead of adding horsepower, they tweaked the steering and the suspension. So we now have dampers that are 4% stiffer in the front, 12% stiffer in the rear. My tester, being the Sport Prestige package, also adds the electronically controlled suspension, which also means it has adaptive dampers, and we now have rear wheel steering. The rear wheels will steer a total of 2 degrees to allow this thing to have a slightly smaller turning radius, which I believe is around 36 feet. It's pretty similar to something like a mid-size to compact sedan. And in sport mode here, you can feel the steering definitely feels a little bit heavier. The suspension still feels pretty soft. The ride in this car is also still really good. I mean, even though I've got a car that's riding on 20-inch wheels, staggered setup tires, of course, it has a really nice, agreeable ride quality. Now, some people have complained that the ride is too firm. Now, granted, this car does not have air suspension. You can get that, I believe, on the Mercedes But you know, for what it is, I think the car's ride quality is nice. This vehicle doesn't feel like a sports sedan. It feels like a fast, efficient, quiet, comfortable luxury sedan that just happens to feel a little bit sportier. So yes, if you want something sportier, get the BMW. The BMW is still going to drive sportier than this. But you know, keep in mind, we are in a segment full of dwindling offerings because everyone keeps going to SUVs as opposed to these mid-size luxury sedans. And there's still something very unique about the G80. It looks good, it handles well, it's fast. Put my foot down here. The 8-speed auto is really quick to shift and so smooth. It also sounds good. The engine has kind of an augmented noise in this sport mode, but I think it still sounds really good. I mean, the best thing about driving this vehicle is putting it into comfort. You put it into comfort, you can feel the dampers get softer, the steering gets a little bit lighter. The seats also relax because this one here will actually hug the bolsters. It'll tighten the bolsters when I have it in Sport Plus. The mode that I find confusing in this vehicle is the Sport Plus mode. Now in the Sport Plus mode, it actually turns off the traction control and puts the stability control in a less restrictive setting. This is not the mode, however, you need to be in to engage launch control because you have to physically turn off everything to actually engage launch control. This allows the tail to step out a little bit more. It allows the all-wheel drive system to give you more of a rear drive feel. It's just not really necessary, I believe, in this type of vehicle because this is a mid-size luxury sedan, and people aren't going to be driving it this way. This isn't something that would compete with a BMW M5 either, or even the Mercedes-AMG E53. I think the Mercedes, in that sense, feels a little bit more sportier than this. This is definitely more along the lines of the E450. I mean, the all-wheel drive system definitely can appropriate power more to the back to give it that step out or that shenanigan feel. Where the back end likes to step out a little bit, but most of you are just going to drive this in comfort. You're going to cruise along on the open highway. I mean, this is a car that you can kind of push on curvy roads hard, and it won't, you know, hate you for it. But it also still feels heavy. You can feel the nearly 4,500 pounds of fat that this car pushes around. But the new steering wheel feels nice. The visibility is good. The driver assistance tech in this car is phenomenal. Every time, you know, you signal left or right, it shows you what's in your blind spot via a camera image. It has Hyundai's or Genesis's highway driving assist level 2, where it actually will lane keep for you to actively change lanes. It has full stop and go cruise control with traffic aware, automatic emergency braking. This one here also has the heads up display, and you have that 3-dimensional gauges. It also has that thing that looks at your face to make sure you're paying attention. There's just so much technology and luxury in this vehicle, and I'm sitting here while getting a massage in the driver's seat. Only the driver's side has the massage, but it is nice at least that it has it. And this is way above any of the Japanese offerings, which none of them offer a Japanese mid-size luxury sedan anymore. You have to go for a German vehicle or a Jaguar XF to get something in this size. And this is precisely why this car continues to pick up momentum in sales. I mean, Genesis sold just over 6,000 of these last year, which doesn't sound like much, but it actually is only 1,000 or so less versus how many A6s Audi sold last year during that same time period. And you guys know how long the A6 has been around. So this is one really well-balanced, well-built, all-around nice luxury sedan that now feels a little bit sportier, has plenty of power, plenty of luxury, plenty of technology, plenty of room. And really the only way that this could be better is if Genesis made it electric, which they've actually already revealed. An electric version is coming most likely later at the end of this year or early next year, which also should make this the quickest of the Genesis family for now, until the electric version comes out at least. But yeah, I have very little complaints. I mean, in terms of fuel economy, this is probably where I would only complain. This vehicle is rated at 1726. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 17. So it's not great gas mileage. The BMW, the Mercedes, the Audi, all is going to get better gas mileage. But I think if you can afford this kind of vehicle, you're not going to be too terribly concerned with 17 mpg. On the highway, I did get it up to about 23, which is not bad. It does require premium, of course, because it's the V6. But yeah, you're not going to find a more well-rounded vehicle, especially for this price. Now, this all-wheel drive system in this vehicle does have the ability to send more power to the rear axle, and I figured since I have this kind of snow-covered gravel road, I just want to test out to see how it feels when you guys want to get this thing a little sideways, which don't try this at home. Obviously, this vehicle, you can shut off the stability control and it should let the tail step out. And you know what? Because of that long wheelbase, it really allows you to kind of just let the tail step out whenever you'd like. And it makes this thing super fun to do so. And it's super controllable, and you can really feel the back end sending more power to the rear axle, which is really fun to feel in a big mid-size luxury sedan. But I have to say, I am very impressed with the way this car feels on slippery conditions. If you guys plan to actually drive this car on these types of roads, it can handle it really well. Just remember, it's a sedan. It doesn't have that much ground clearance, but it's got a really impressive all-wheel drive system. So while technically the 2022 Genesis G80 Sport is still not a true BMW M or Mercedes-AMG fighter, I am pretty impressed with the 2022 Sport model after spending a full week with it. Just like the regular version that I tested last year, there's still plenty to like about the new generation G80. In fact, Genesis sales have actually improved significantly versus 2020. Last year they sold a little over 6,000, which represents a 50% increase. Now 6,000 units in America may not sound like a lot, especially when BMW sells about 24,000 5 Series, or Mercedes-AMG E-classes are about 20,000. However, Audi sold about 8,000 A6s last year, which puts this car pretty close, of course, to the Audi A6, a vehicle that's been around for quite some time. Now, of course, the G80 Sport is going to be more expensive versus the 2021 model that it replaced last year. This vehicle now starts at just over $65,000 for a base G80 Sport. Keep in mind, if you guys want a 4-cylinder G80, they start at around $48,000 for the rear drive model, at about $3,000 if you guys want all-wheel drive. So it's about a $12,000 price jump to go to the V6, but it does include a lot of extras that you get as part of option packages. So really it is a good deal. My tester, of course, with the Prestige package is an extra $6,300. It adds premium options like the Napa leather, the heads-up display, the upgraded suspension tuning, the rear wheel steering. That alone is probably worth the extra $6,000. My tester all in is around $71,500 with destination, which 71 grand sounds like a lot, but keep in mind its German competitors are going to cost between $5,000 to $12,000 more expensive once you actually add in all the options that make them comparably equipped. And really, after spending some time with this vehicle, my only gripe happens to be with the fuel economy. It's a little bit less versus a lot of its European rivals, but in terms of the steering, in terms of the technology, in terms of the comfort, in terms of the luxury, this is right on par with all of its European rivals. Plus, it also offers a better warranty and significantly better value. And that's exactly why Genesis is continuing to be one of the hottest new luxury players out there. And it's really just surpassing a lot of the Japanese brands. It's really also giving a lot of the European brands a run for their money. And I'm just super excited, of course, because what's next for Genesis is an all-electric version of this, and of course, all-electric versions of their other core models like the Genesis GV80 and the GV70. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2022 Genesis G80 Sport. If you're actually in the market for a mid-size luxury sedan and you want something that's different, that's also slightly sporty in addition to being comfortable, this should definitely make it to the very top of your list. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.